The carriage of the 7036 AJ is very narrow with 34.5 inches of total width. It can go through a single commercial door, a backyard gate, alleys, and fragile surfaces. The overall weight of the machine is 6,700 pounds, and the long tracks provide an awesome weight distribution. Basket controls are located under the barbecue hood you can see here. They will be explained in details later with complete description of pictograms, joysticks, and lights. This is the galvanized Outriggers panel under which all hydraulic valves are located for boom operation, tracks, and outriggers. There is an emergency valve pinned under the panel that will be used for emergency descent procedure. This procedure will be described later. For now, please note on which solenoid the valve needs to be installed. Remove cap and O-ring before inserting and screwing all the way the emergency valve. Once it's tight, screw in the plunger to allow hydraulic oil to flow and proceed with maneuver. Make sure you remove the emergency valve once emergency procedure is done and put back O-ring and black cap in place. Standard with all units, a manual emergency descent pump is located on battery's cover right-hand side. There will be a post to insert and pump. If your unit is equipped with electric emergency descent pump, this is the ignition socket to be used with the spare red cutoff key located in the black document holder. Here is where you need to plug the remote control. Please note that when unit is not in use or in transport, the cover needs to be closed to prevent dirt from entering inside connectors. All units are equipped standard with bubble lever to comply with ANSI and CSA standards. It is not required to be straight and center to operate. There are 4 anchor points to travel with the machine on trailer. Crane lifting points are located on top of each of the 4 closed outriggers to lift unit without spreader bars. All 4 points must be used to perform lifting safely. On diesel models, fuel cap is located right under the hood, easy to access and remove. The Quattro Box is the heart of the unit. This is where all conditions are summed with the help of simple relays and switches. As you can see, it is sealed for warranty purpose. The reason is simple. If it's opened, manipulations can be made that can potentially compromise safety of the lift. We must grant expressed written permission to open it for warranty purpose. The first green light will be on when the unit is in stow position. Although there is only one light, there are 2 conditions who needs to be met. Telescope fully in and boom sitting on rest. Second red light is for basket overweight. That means there is over 440 pounds in the basket and you need to remove weight. It comes with a continuous alarm and the engine simply shuts down. Third and fourth red lights will lit when unit is in combustion mode. If they're off, that means unit is plugged in and electric power is present, therefore electric motor will start. If they're on, it will be combustion engine to run. Beware indoor if these lights are on. Inside the plastic housing is located the breaker who needs to be on when unit is used in electric mode. On top, in the middle of Quattro Box, is located the hour meter. It is turning as soon as the key on remote is on, even if motors are not running. The last set of 4 lights indicates if pressure is applied on each outriggers. In case of instability, one of them will be off. The power outlet on the left is to power electric motor, and the one on the right will provide operators with AC power to basket. The cutoff battery needs to be on if unit is working on combustion mode. One tip we can give when working indoors is to have that key turned off, so combustion motor won't start. The battery cover can be easily removed with Allen key in case you need to boost the unit. The outlet air-water is a single hose of 3000 psi that runs through the boom, providing air or water for operators and basket. Inside of the document holder, we recommend you to have a metric set of Allen keys and priors to easily remove covers. Also, it's a good practice to have one spare red cutoff key and one spare key 455. As far as documents, we should find the operating manual, troubleshooting guide for operators, emergency descent procedure, and inspection sheets. On the side of turret, ground controls allow you to perform all boom movements from the ground. All movements are drawn with simple pictograms on the side and easy to figure out. If unit equipped with hostile environment options, there will not be pictograms but function will be named and there will be only one lever to perform all functions. Starting from the left, rotation, that is for turret rotation left and right. Tower, this is for up and down of the lower boom. Main boom, this is for up and down of the upper boom. Telescope, this is for extraction and retraction of telescope. Then further on the right, instability warning light, narrow position restriction light, emergency kill switch, switch with key for base operation or basket operation, jib up button, jib down button. Both green buttons need to be activated while holding key clockwise. Ground controls will be very useful when full 70 feet working height is required. In that position, tracks will be placed at maximum height at nearly 4 feet off the ground. Climbing basket is almost impossible at that height, so you need to bring basket down to ground level. Once basket is near the ground, put key in basket position and start working. If operator becomes unresponsive, ground controls will also be used to bring him back on the ground. Assuming power sources, diesel or electric, are still working, simply turn key to ground position to have control from the ground. The first upper left joystick left-right axis is for turret rotation. Up-down axis is for lower boom up and down. The middle joystick left-right axis is for basket rotation. An up and down axis is for jib up and down. This joystick is used mainly to last fine-tune movements to get to the perfect position for working. The last upper right joystick left-right axis is for telescope in and out. Up-down axis is for upper boom up and down. The bottom row of indicators starts with the E-stop button. Once in working position, you can shut the engine using this button. There are then 6 lights. The first from the left indicates if you have power of any kind, combustion or electric. Both second and fifth indicate unit is in stow position, required position to put back unit on tracks and move it. Second indicates that upper boom sits on boom rest. And fifth tells you telescope is fully retracted. Third will be lit if one of your outriggers is not charged with pressure. This is called instability. You went too far out on the horizontal outreach. The only thing you can do is put back the weight in center. If the fourth light is lit, it has been preceded by the machine engine to shut down. That is the basket overweight indicator. It comes with a continuous alarm and the impossibility to start the engine. Maximum basket capacity is 440 pounds. Only solution is to drop weight in basket, otherwise unit will not start. The sixth light indicates that in narrow mode, you can't rotate outside of the outriggers in front or in back if your telescope is not fully retracted. First switch from the left is to start the engine. Second switch is used to switch from combustion to electric mode from basket when both power sources are available. The last switch, if unit is equipped with gas motor, is the choke. The key socket is for basket leveling. Units are equipped with auto basket leveling, but the flexibility of booms sometimes creates enough binding for basket to be off a few degrees. If you have a wireless remote control, please note that all movements, both from base and from the ground, are performed through the wireless remote. The wired remote control have three simple functions: start-stop the engine, combustion or electric, movement of the outriggers, and drive. Aside from these functions, you don't need the wired remote, but it needs to stay plugged in all the time during operation and being well taken care of at all time, because if it's missing or broken, the unit will not work at all. At the end of telescope section, there is a last 5 feet portion called jib. This allows perfect insert placement to working surface. The jib is live even when basket is at full weight capacity of 440 pounds. A great feature of the 7036 AJ is the possibility to raise jib all the way up even when machine is in stow position to allow best approach for climbing and obstacle clearance. To do this while in stow position, simply turn and hold the key while pressing the green buttons. The unit is equipped with 4 swing-out outriggers offering 2 standard stabilization patterns, the standard mode and the narrow mode. We will explain in details what that means for you in the stabilization section. For now, please note that it's possible to stabilize the machine with the outriggers in any position, depending on restrictions you may have on the ground. The only mandatory condition is to make sure all pins are totally inserted to click the switch. Outriggers are key with Easy Lift series of spider lifts. The setup and stabilization process is the warranty of success and performance with the unit. On remote, each outrigger has its own switch, numbered from 1 to 4, as they are labeled on the machine. Between switches for outriggers 2 and 3, there is another switch for auto leveling when equipped with that option. All these switches are toggle switches, and when you pull towards you, the outrigger will go down, and when you push away from you, the outrigger will go up. On the remote, there is one of the 3 e-stop switches of the unit. Second is in basket and third beside ground controls. Should one of the 3 be pushed, there will be no ignition of engine. Please make sure all 3 are released before starting the engine. On the remote, there is a key switch. Without this key, the remote is useless, henceforth the unit. Once the remote is properly plugged in and cut-off battery key properly inserted and turned on, put the key on the remote to I position. You should hear a beep. By putting key to 2 position, the engine will start. Then release. The key on the remote should always be left to I position during the operations. It is possible to shut down, start engine from basket, but key on remote needs to be in I position. The key should be put to 0 position only when unit is not in use at all. The remote have 2 joysticks, one for each track. Basic position is to have the remote strapped safely around your shoulder, facing the unit as if you were inside the basket. In that position, pushing joystick will move forward, pulling the joysticks will move backwards. The tracks can go the opposite way from each other, allowing sharp turns on single axis. On the lower right corner of the remote, there is a white toggle switch used to increase or decrease RPM when driving the unit. If unit is mounted with gas engine, one side of the switch is for RPM and the other side is for the choke. On uncertain grounds, it is highly recommended to drive unit with the outriggers close to the ground to prevent unit from tipping on the side. The fact that both drive and outriggers are together on wired and wireless remote is a great advantage of the 7036 AJ. This is just a quick video showing you how easy it is to remove the basket should you need to insert the machine in a tighter space, which is much narrower than the basket itself. The first step is to remove the harness from the socket behind the barbecue style cover that protects the basket commands. There are 2 clips that needs to be pushed forward, one on top and one at the bottom, and then you just, once it's removed, you need to place it down here. There is a bypass switch that needs to be this plug needs to be plugged in order for you to be able to drive the machine while the basket is not plugged in. After that, for more comfort working, you need to rise the jib. Then you need to dismount 4 bolts. They're located 2 on this side and 2 on the other side. In order to do that, you will need either a metric 19 key, like this, or 3/4 of an inch is fine, or and a metric Allen key 10 in order to do that. So you just go ahead and remove it. Make sure that you don't lose the washer on both ends. There you go. So you need to do this on all 4 bolts. Once the basket is near the ground like that, it's very easy just to lift it. The rubber comes out of the socket using just one bend. And then just need to get the casket on the ground, and you can go very easily with the basket, like this. Please note that there are 2 very important elements of the stability system, actually not the stability per se, but the overweight. These are these springs here. These springs, they are located there and they are screwed there. So just make sure that when you insert it back, you put the hole that's correspondent. Make sure that it fits in the rubber thing there. And when it's done, you just do the other way around. One thing that it's neat to know is that those bolts can be replaced by quick pin. If having the basket removed is an often thing you do, you can just take some just quick plug to replace them. When it's time to put it back in place, at the front you need to push backwards in order to load the springs. When you're in the other the back, you need to lift a little bit in order to insert the bolt properly. By suspending myself, I just make sure that there is travel with the springs so that the overload system is activated when required. So just make sure that you don't tighten them completely so that this travel is possible. Now don't forget, you need to plug back the switch, remove it from, there you go. Now she's ready to go back on the loading dock waiting for transport. The Easy Lift 7036 AJ unit active stabilization system is extremely simple. Caution and care is required when you lift the tracks because this step will guarantee you performance if it is well done. Otherwise, you won't be able to outreach as much as you could. If unit is equipped with auto leveling, this is all done automatically. But we strongly recommend you to know how to do it without auto level because in case of failure, manual outriggers, individual leveling is possible. Easy Lift series units are equipped with active stabilization system located in the outriggers. It is designed to allow maximum outreach versus weight in basket. More weight, less distance. If working area is straight up, it won't matter basket weight until maximum capacity of 440 pounds. For safety purpose, the outriggers will only be accessible when unit is in stow position. Only then will it be possible to stabilize the unit or put it back on its tracks. With the 7036 AJ, two conditions are required for the machine to be in stow position. All booms down and sitting on boom rest. Telescope totally in or retracted. With these two conditions met, you have access to the outriggers. Note that usage of bubble level is not recommended for stabilization. What's important is to apply even charge on each outrigger to offer maximum performance. Trying to level machine perfectly will lead to uneven charge on outrigger because you will try to lift that one, lower this one, and so on and so forth, leading to less performance once climbing to the boom. The very first thing you want to do is decide where you want to stabilize the unit to offer a maximum reach and working zone with the least possible displacement of unit. Since you need to be in stow position to access the outrigger, it can be very frustrating to miss a few feet at 65 feet off the ground because you have not placed the unit properly on the ground. It's not always an easy task due to restrictions on the ground, the nature of the job versus proximity of base. For example, if you're doing a tree removal, you want to give yourself a good space to avoid limbs and stumps to hit the unit's base. Once you determine where you will stabilize, you need to position the outriggers. There are two different patterns, standard or B position and narrow or A position. Please note that there is no difference between the two modes when height is required. With full basket load in both positions, full 70 feet working height will be reached. When outreach is required, the narrow mode will allow better outreach with an increased weight in basket. Please note that any combination of position will also work. That might happen if you have restrictions on the floor such as sprinklers, grids, or obstacles, etc. What's important to understand is that if one of the outrigger is set to narrow position, the unit will consider all outriggers to be in that position and apply the restrictions of the narrow mode. Standard mode is the common mode. It will allow full movements all around with no restrictions aside from the possible outreach distance. Narrow mode will allow better outreach between the outriggers in front and back of the unit. It will not be possible to outreach in the wider portion of the outriggers, but once basket is between short portions, it offers maximum outreach. To move from front to back, telescope needs to be totally retracted. Once appropriate mode is selected, or each outrigger have been placed where there is room, it is time to set up in working position. Note that outriggers will slide while you jack the tracks. To prevent outriggers from falling off the floor pad, it is recommended you place the floor pad in the corner of the outrigger pad, so both will slide on each other while jacking instead of falling off the floor pad. If unit is off level, you need to put it back fairly level before starting to stabilize by applying pressure on lower outriggers. Then, place the unit as if it was on straight ground and stabilize it normally. Once on straight grounds, work your way up using the outriggers by pair. On remote, use the combination of outriggers 1 and 4 and 2 and 3 and hold both together, lifting back and forth alternatively until you reach 18 inches off the ground or all the way up if full height is required. The very same sequence is required to put unit back on the tracks. Use same combination or use side-side instead of front-back. Just be careful and do small distances, up or down, and switch fast with the opposite side. A great feature of the 7036 AJ is that both booms are operable independently and simultaneously, allowing you to have the best angle of approach to your working zone. The lower boom is the lowest portion of the articulated boom, composed of 2 sections on top of each other. It is also used as counterweight. Also known as telescope or main boom, the upper boom section extends to allow you to reach out or reach up. Composed of 3 sections, the upper boom is the most used during operations. Of the telescope section, there is a last 5 feet portion called jib. This allows perfect insert placement to working surface. The jib is live even when basket is at full weight capacity. To perform boom movements from ground controls. Let's see now what it looks from the basket. All movements are done under the active stability system. That means if you try to go too far out, system will stop you and also warn you with an instability light and an alarm. The solution is now to put back weight in center. 3 moves are allowed when that occurs. Riser down, boom up, and retract telescope. These movements are the only ones allowed because their purpose is to get the weight back in center and rebalance the charge. All other movements will be forbidden to prevent machine from tipping. Note that there is a time delay in the switches. That means if you went too far out, you don't have to hold the function back all the way until alarm goes off, but give it small shots and wait for alarm to shut after 2-3 seconds. If alarm doesn't stop, give more of the function and wait again, and so forth until alarm shuts down. Other than that, please refer to the envelope to know what performance of unit is according to weight in basket. From now on, it's mainly experience. Now job is done, or you need to move. You need to fold the unit completely in stow position to have access to the outriggers. In basket, there is a visual telling you turret is well aligned and is located on the galvanized hood. This is not an official condition for stow position, but it's required to be able to fold outriggers completely. To get boom down properly without stress to components, first lower down the riser completely, then main tower down until it sits on boom rest. You should get both lights and basket lit, and with turret aligned, you have reached the perfect stow position. With the 7036 AJ, the riser can get in contact with the outriggers if, at initial stabilization, Tracks are not raised high enough off the ground. It is recommended to raise tracks at least 18 inches off the ground to operate without any problems. The unit will work perfectly if tracks are lower, but there is a risk of contact like you can see here. Potential contact can compromise stabilization system or act as lever and lift opposite outrigger, creating an unresolvable instability situation that requires emergency measures to fix. The EasyLift 7036 AJ is meant to get you up and out in front of you with always a certain distance between the working area and the center of the turret. We saw how it's possible to go too far out and the correctives we can do to reverse the situation. What you don't want to do is to go too far in center. By doing so, you create a situation where instability is unresolvable because all movements normally allowed to bring back weight and center will make situation worse. Remember the 3 moves allowed and see their effect on this position. Riser down will just put too much weight downwards and increase pressure. Boom up will have the same effect, pushing the weight further away from center, making situation therefore worse. Retract telescope will have no effect whatsoever on the weight as opposed as if you were too far out. If you get in that position, only emergency maneuvers will be possible. To do so, you need to dismount side hood over ground controls to gain access to bypass valves. Let's assume that power is still on and properly working, but if it's not so, please refer to emergency descent procedure for more details. To bring main boom down, simply press on the bypass valve button while activate lever. At some point, it will stop beeping and all movements will be allowed from basket. A situation that we experimented also was a tiny turret rotation who led to the impossibility to remove outrigger pin from stow position to stabilize the unit. This happened during transport and was caused either by a tiny bad alignment of turret when folding the unit or simply the turret shifted during transport. It only needed to rotate 1/4 of an inch for the pin to get completely jammed. To be able to rotate turret when in stow position, first you need to remove side panel over ground controls. Second, you need to install emergency valve located under galvanized hood. Then, you need to start the rotation by inducing pressure on bypass button and activate lever at same time. Note that there is a different bypass button for each turret direction. Once you have moved boom away from outrigger, you'll be able to remove outrigger pin. Don't forget to remove valve and replace side panel when it's done. Again, we assume that power is still on and properly working, but if it's not, please refer to emergency descent procedure for more details. Although this situation could be the most stressful due to arm operator, it will probably be the easiest to execute assuming power is there and remote is operational. Simply go beside the machine, near ground controls, switch back the key to base position, then bring operator down to the ground. By power here, we mean both engines, electric and combustion, not working. So you ran out of fuel and there's no way for you to get plugged in to get electric power. You need to turn key to base position and make sure remote key is on I position. Use the spare red cutoff key in document holder and insert it in the emergency pump socket and turn clockwise. You should hear the pump working. If your unit is not equipped with the optional emergency electric pump, you need to have a second person to pump while you perform the maneuvers. Go to ground controls and bring operator down to the ground. Once boom is down and in stow position, it is also possible to close the outriggers. Use outriggers toggle switches on remote gently to bring unit down, making sure you lower unit and keep it fairly leveled. Make sure you turn off emergency electric pump once emergency maneuvers are completed. First step is to install emergency valve located under galvanized hood and screw back plunger completely. It is not required at this point to dismount the hood. We remove here the remote control just to show that it's missing or it's broken. Listen to the sound of the pump. Once activated and the plunger in, there's a difference in the sound. Then, perform maneuvers from ground controls. Important note, only the following movements will be possible: riser down, main boom up, and retraction of telescope. Note that these are the movements to recover from instability situation. Reason is simple, we don't want the machine to flip over. Warning! All other movements are possible, but if you do them, you take full responsibility of final result because stability system will be bypassed. That is why you need to dismount the side cover to have access to bypass valves. You will be able to perform all movement by pressing the appropriate valve and activate the lever. Identify location of valves performing the functions. On the left-hand side, there are 3 valves. First one is for tower up, second valve is for counterclockwise turret rotation, and third is for clockwise turret rotation. At far right, this valve is for telescope out and main boom down. Once boom is down and in stow position, it is also possible to close outriggers. First step is to remove the galvanized hood completely if it's not already done. Since emergency valve was located on boom operations, you need to switch and place it on the opposite socket labeled outriggers and turn on emergency pump. You will hear a significant difference in the sound of the pump. Use outriggers levers gently to bring unit down, making sure you keep it leveled. Once emergency maneuvers are all completed, turn off emergency electric pump, remove emergency valve under galvanized hood, and replace all covers. Put the key to ground position. Perform maneuvers from the ground. Important note, only the following movements will be possible: riser down, main boom up, and retraction of telescope. Warning! All other movements are possible, but if you do them, you take full responsibility of final result because stability system will be bypassed. That is why you need to dismount the side cover to have access to bypass valves. You will be able to perform all movement by pressing the appropriate valve and activate the lever. Identify location of valves performing the functions. On the left-hand side, there are 3 valves. First one is for tower up, second valve is for counterclockwise turret rotation, and third is for clockwise turret rotation. At far right, this valve is for telescope out and main boom down. Please refer to procedure number 3 to perform the maneuvers.